Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi welcoming you on all behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group to the first day of Indonesia Solar Week 2022. I hope you had a good time networking with your peers today. We'll have those networking sessions again at the end of the panel discussions. We will be playing our sponsor video for Platinum partners Goodwe and Trina Solar. so much, team, for playing the video. Now, we shall proceed with our panel discussion. But before that, I take the pleasure to thank our partners for extending their immense support to organize our event, our platinum partners, Goodwe and Trina Solar. Now, let me quickly take you through today's agenda. We will be having two sessions today. Our first session will be on scaling up, growth opportunities, challenges, and market outlook. And after that, in the second session, you will hear our experts discuss the big tech trends shaping large scale solar. And now, without any further delay, let's begin with our first session. And the session will be starting with opening remarks by one of the well known industry experts, who is Mr. Febi Tuminwa, who is the chairman of IESR. The stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Pandey. I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Fabi Tumiwa, and I'm the Executive Director of Institute for Essential Services Reform, a think tank based in Jakarta. But also in the same capacity, I'm the chairman of Indonesia Solar Energy Associations. This is the membership association comprises of developer, EPC, technology providers, as well as expert and solar enthusiasts. I would like to say that the future of the solar energy of this region is in Indonesia. And I want to say this out loud. Well, until a few years ago, the utilization of solar energy in Indonesia is almost unheard. The country, I think, is one of the have a largest solar resource potential in the region. But until end of last year, we only been installed less than 200 megawatt of solar PV. Well, compared to a solar potential, technical potential of 3,400 gigawatt to 20,000 gigawatt based on ISR assessment, this install capacity that lack than 200 megawatt is in very, very small. But I believe the situation is changing. Well, a number of reasons why we
I believe Fabi sir has lost his internet connection. No problem. We will
in
proceed.
also in updated Indonesia NDC last year, and we have submitted that to UNFCCC, and also in PLN RUPTL 2021-2030. Second, during the Glasgow Climate Summit, our government announced to retire early 5.5 gigawatt of coal plants and additional 3.7 gigawatt to be replaced by renewables. This alone, I think, a very, very significant announcement by the government. The third, the enactment of Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources Regulation number 26/2021 that is fully implemented since January 21st this year, accompanied by the National Strategic Program of 3.6 gigawatt of rooftop solar by 2024. It's really good news. And with that, then we will see that the market of solar PV, especially rooftop solar, will be growing in the next few years. To reach net zero emission by 2050, 2060 or 2050, and to become compatible with 1.5 degree, ISR analysis indicated that at least 10 gigawatt of thermal power must be retired by 2030, and around 50 gigawatt of solar PV must be added. So we have more renewable energy mix in the power system. With that, I would like to say that Indonesia solar market is actually very huge. Also, based on ISR study, the potential rooftop PV for residential is about 1.5 to 1.8 million households. But beyond that, there are additional 8 to 9 million additional households. So with combined technical potential around 20 to 30 gigawatt. So it's really huge. So we learned that since rooftop solar for PLN customer become legal by the end of 2018, the growth of rooftop solar from 2018 to 2021 is increased dramatically by 190%. Commercial and industry solar will fuel the increasing of rooftop solar in the next few years. We know that industry is forced to reduce emission intensity of their product and reduce risk of paying carbon tax in the future, as well as to increase competitiveness. I estimate that the market for CNI will be around 200 250 megawatt this year and could increase up to 500 megawatt to 1 gigawatt annually until 2025. Well, we can see that the CNI market could be exponentially and floating PV. And our utility PLN plan to add 3.9 gigawatt of solar PV until 2025. In addition to that, several minories plan to install solar PV in their premise. It is expected that it potentially around 200 to 300 megawatt annually. Also, we learned that as Singapore plans to import electricity as much as 4 gigawatt by 2035, we have seen that investors piling up to secure this project. Our data in ISR indicated as much as 10 gigawatt of solar project in Batam Island and Riau right now has been announced by various developer until last year, and that could be another engine of growth for solar in Indonesia. Well, I can say that the solar market is big, but some hurdles remain. First, that the rooftop solar market in Indonesia will flourish only if the implementation of Ministerial Regulation number 26/2021 is effective. It means that no restriction and effort to slow down for issuing interconnection licensing to the grid by utility in this particular PLN. And I'm sure that government also aware about this challenge, and I believe that we'll take some necessary measures to avoid this to happen. Second, the cost of PV system is very important to determine the economics, and the consumer in Indonesia expect PV costs get lower over time. For CNI customers, they expect that the LCOE keep lower and below 20% of electricity tariff for industrial. And this requires a very competitive EPC cost and low cost financing. The combination of investor and seasoned EPC company really could market. Third, for utility solar, regulation remain competitive and bankable. I believe government is working about to develop local PV industry in Indonesia and facilitating utility scale investment in solar, as we also would like to reach renewable energy target. Finally, I want to emphasize again that this is the right time to enter Indonesia market. Government of Indonesia commit to reach net zero emissions. There are already improvement in policy and regulatory framework, and the growing EPC company that looking for the partnership. And of course, the potential big solar PV market can be grow in our projections like 1 gigawatt annually to 5 gigawatt annually in the next 5 to 7 years. We here in Indonesia ready to support you, and we're looking forward to partners and cooperate with you. In this particular, I would like again to mention our association, Indonesia Solar Energy Association. Thank you very much and enjoy the discussion.
Thank you so much, sir, for your opening remarks and setting the stage for the event. It was a pleasure having you here. So, proceeding ahead with the event, we are having our sponsor presentation by Ms. Spencer Ma'am, who is the System Application Engineer from Goodby. Please proceed with your presentation now.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Sure. Please let me know if you need any assistance.
Okay. Okay, now can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Spencer, a solution engineer from Goodwill Solar Academy, and I'm now supporting Australia and Southeast Asia for the PV system solution of the on-grid inverters. Today, I'm glad to introduce you Goodwill's commercial and industrial and utility solutions and some applications in Southeast Asia. So today's sharing will be carried out from the following four aspects. First of all, please allow me to give you a brief introduction of Goodwill. Goodwill is a global leading inverter manufacturer, but we are actually more than that. Our vision is to driving the world's smart energy future. To achieve this goal, we've installed over 2 million units of inverters and helped save 26 million tons of carbon dioxide. Goodwill starts our smart energy journey since 2010. In the past 11 years, we've developed in a dramatic speed and become a famous brand trusted by our customers. We were listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange in 2020, and our businesses keep expanding and growing. As a global company, we have branches, sales, and service centers all over the world so that all our clients can be served in time. And we also have 2 R&D centers and 2 factories to ensure the product innovation as well as the production and delivery. And we also have won many awards recognized in the PV industry. For example, Goodwill is the only solar inverter manufacturer to win the TUV Rainline All Quality Matters Award for 6 consecutive years. Now let's look at some typical commercial and industrial solution and some applications of Goodwill's commercial products. So the most typical case is the 380 and 400 grid connection. So this system is specially designed for the commercial rooftops. In this system, the generation solar power will be consumed by the loads first, and then the rest power will be fed into the grid. And in the commercial and industrial scenarios, normally we will have multiple inverters. So we can use SEC 1000, which is a smart energy management controller, to control all the inverters, and it can also work for the load consumption monitoring and the export power limit. And Goodwill also offers a free online monitoring platform, which is called the Sense Portal, showing like this, like here. So it can be accessed both through an app or the web. And it is a smart tool to help our customers monitor their power plants in a visualized way, and also it can help the maintenance. And in some large commercial projects, we also offer products and the system solution for the high voltage scenario. And in the high voltage systems, the inverter output will be connected to a transformer first, and then connected to the high voltage distribution network. And for the communication methods, we can choose the PLC communication. which is a power line communication to save the cost for the communication lines. And here is an overview about all our main products for the commercial and industrial application from 25 kilowatt to 136 kilowatt. And we have the HT, SMT, and MT working at different power ranges. And Goodwill commercial and industrial products are featured with full load operation at 50 degree and up to 150 DC oversizing and also up to 115 AC overloading. And the integrated arc-fault circuit interpreter and power line communication can also be chosen. We also have a utility high power inverter, HT 1500 volt series. So it is specially designed for the large commercial and industrial application and the large utility projects. This model is fully compatible with the mainstream high-power modules such as the 182 and 210 mm PV modules. And we will discuss this part later. So the HT 1500 volt series also offers the second generation power line communication, and it is also equipped with the smart IV curve diagnosis and the SVG functions. Here is our product that's specially designed for the 210 mm PV modules, which is the KN series. So the HTKN series, the main difference with the normal version is that it has 6 MPPTs, and each MPPT has 3 strings with a maximum input current of 20 ampere, so that it can fit in the large current train of the 210 mm PV modules. Now let's look at Goodwill's solution to be compatible with the high current and bifacial power modules. We all know that there's a trend that the PV module size and the short circuit current of the PV modules is keep expanding. So now let's look at how we are facing this problem. So for the 182 mm PV modules, which is widely used in the utility scale power plants and also some commercial rooftops, our inverter can fully adapt it to 182 mm PV modules. We can see that the mainstream 182 millimeter manufacturers has a short circuit current for about 13 to 14 ampere. And we found that even Jinko that has a short circuit current of 14.9 ampere is still below 15 ampere. And our inverter can support maximum 15 ampere input current. So we can say that we are fully compatible to the 182 millimeter modules. While for the 210 millimeter PV modules, for the commercial and industrial scenarios, we offer single string connection for each MPPT, so that we can have a maximum input current of 30 ampere. So here we take Trina Vertex 600 volt and Goodwill 120 kilowatt HT as an example. We can see the short circuit current is 18.52 and the open circuit voltage is 41.5 at STC. And after some calculation, we found that we can have 22 PV modules per string and 12 strings are connected. And we can find that the DC oversizing still can reach 132%. While for the utility projects, as we've mentioned before, we have a special version of KNHT. So the string current of KNHT is 20 ampere. So with a string, there's a string, 3 string designs. So our clients may have the concern that if they will need an external fuse to prevent the regulations requirements, which require us to prevent the two-string current backfeeded to the rest string. Well, the KN series is actually still use a new no-fuse design to solve this problem. It is equipped with an intelligent DC switch that can automatically trip the DC switch when the overcurrent failure happens. And this DC switch can receive the trip signal from the inverter DSP to shut down the DC circuit when the emergency happens. So we can say that our new model is perfectly matched the 210mm PV modules. Okay, now let's move on to the product's features of GoodWe. Firstly, GoodWe inverters can adapt to multiple environments. For example, we have 12 MPPTs to suit with the multi-angle rooftops, and it is very flexible for the system design. And GoodWe inverters also features for the full load operation at high temperature. So it can adapt it to the different environments like the coastal areas and the high temperature environment in many Southeast Asia countries. And we are also having certified by the C5 protection level. And for the lightning prone areas, our HT series is integrated with a Type 1 SPD on the DC side, so it is also available to be chosen. And as we've mentioned before, GoodWe inverters has a good heat dissipation performance because we have a very reasonable heat dissipation path, and it is equipped with 6 powerful fans. As we know that there's a hazard called the arc failure. So it is very easy to trigger the fire accidents. While GoodWe commercial products has an optional choice of the arc failure protection with the AFCI 2 second generation level protection. And as we can see, we also have the smart IV curve diagnosis, which is an upcoming function that it is a very useful tool for the operations and maintenance for the large commercial and industrial and also the utility projects, because it is more efficient and cost saving than the traditional ways. And actually, GoodWe inverters also integrated with the PID recovery function. So in the evenings, the anti-PID function is automatically activated. So the inverter will add a reverse current between the modules and the inverters to repair the PID problems happened during daytime, so that we can make sure the system has the best performance. And our inverter also supports for the wide branch connectors to reduce the DC cable investment. Well, now let's have a look at how GoodWe inverters ensures reliability and safety. So we have very diverse tests either internally or externally. For example, we have the IP protection test conducted by the TUV, and we also have the very strict quality management procedure in factory. As you can see from our pictures, so we have very strict control for our production line. We have an aging test that ensures our inverters can suit the extreme hot weather conditions. And we also have developed an ATS test to make sure our inverter is 100% ready before shipment. So in the end, let's look at some case references we've done in the Southeast Asia. Here is a 10 megawatt project in India. And we have worked with many famous companies like Tata, Bosch, and Siemens. Okay, thank you. So that's all for my speech. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us either through this webinar, or you can also follow us on the Solar Academy website.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this insightful presentation and setting the stage. And now, just a small announcement for the attendees. You can post the question and answers in the Q&A section. Now it's time to start with our first panel discussion, which is on scaling up growth opportunities, challenges, and market outlook. And to discuss this, we have in this panel with us Mr. Tony Susandi, who is the coordinator of program planning, directorate of various new energy and renewable energy. Ms. Spencer, who is the system application engineer from Goodwe. Mr. I made Aditya Suryavidya, who is a senior business developer, Renewable Explorer Network from Total Energies, and Secretary General from Indonesia Solar Association. Mr. Kaneka Afrikandang Winoto, who is a senior business development manager from Mainstream Renewable Power. Mr. Fendi Liam, who is the CEO of PT Siddhardas Daya Utama, Ms. Kate Coville, who is the CEO of Shire of Indonesia, Ms. Mada Ayu Habsari, who is the MD of PT Arya Watala Capital. So the session will be led by Kate Ma'am from Shire of Indonesia. Now I welcome all the panelists on the screen and handing it over to Kate Ma'am. Please take it ahead.
Thank you very much indeed, Priyanshi. That's really, really kind. Everybody today is taking part because they are experts or truly experienced in their field. And thank you very, very much indeed for Fabi's introduction, covering the scale of the market and the opportunity available to us, and the opportunity for us to become members of the trade association that he is chair of, and that many speakers here today are also part of. So please do look up the association if you're a developer or EPC or wish to be involved with the association. So that is extremely kind. And thank you very much, Spencer, for your introduction to Goodwe inverters. They look as if they are extremely advanced, and we should all take the opportunity to understand the potential that you provide us in this section. So thank you very much. I notice I put a question in maybe for later in the session about the consideration of using string inverters over central ones. So perhaps you might come in on that later at the day. We have been posed some questions as the panel by our sponsors and the conference this week. And I'm not sure if they're available to you as kind viewers to our session today, but I'm going to read them out one by one and invite the panelists to make a comment or inform us about the detail around the question. So I'm going to start with question number 1, which is the utility scale market, the current installation size and the potential market size. So panelists, and maybe starting with Tony, if you could let us know the current installation size, perhaps, that we have for ground mount and rooftop, if you're aware of it in your position as coordinator of program planning. And then please, others come in, raise your hand or just come on the speaker if you've got any questions around this opportunity. Tony, floor is yours.
I have to off my camera because my bandwidth in my home is not good. So with regard to the project for the biggest one, I think will be the Cirata floating PV. It is currently under progress, under construction. It has 145 megawatt AC in total. So this will be float in the Cirata. And then we have also another project, various project in Indonesia, such as in Likupang, in order of 50 to 60 megawatt. It's ground mounted, and we have also in another places in Indonesia. But I think the most notable one is the Cirata floating PV 145 megawatt AC.
That's fantastic. So some considerably large scale utility projects going up. But we're also seeing 5 and 10 megawatt sites being created, is my understanding as well, which is great for the smaller regions and to test out local areas and see what landowners think of the opportunity. Does anybody else have any comment on the current installation or possibly have done some ground mount solar projects that they could inform us of within the panel? Perhaps, Spencer, you've provided inverters in Indonesia for solar farmers yet? Your microphone, Spencer, unmute.
Hello, Kate.
Hello.
So do you want us to talk about these utility projects in Indonesia?
Yes, if you've experienced of one, it might be nice to hear about how it went, and if we can learn from it.
Actually, we are still at a very early stage in the Indonesia market. So we actually are going to promote our mounted projects in Indonesia. And so we also would like to learn from our speakers about the policies and the regulations in Indonesia. And we just would like to share our opinions about how the string inverters may take the advantage in the coming years.
I can see that your good we manufacture and your high humidity protection opportunities should be very attractive to the floating solar EPCs and developers by the sounds of things.
Yeah, that's right. We actually have already done some floating projects in some other countries like Thailand. We already done these floating projects because our inverters is equipped with a very good protection level. Like I've showed, we have been qualified with a C5 level protection, which means we can definitely be working in the high humidity and extreme hot weather conditions.
Which is fantastic. And with regards to other ground mount projects for our panelists, would they like to make any comment on any current installations that they're aware of?
Yeah, I think, Kate, I could give more information with regard to the ground-mounted project. We are starting this ground-mounted project in scale of 5 megawatt peak. For instance, this is the first IPP for solar power in Indonesia is 5 megawatt peak solar farm in Kupang in eastern Nusa Tenggara or Nusa Tenggara Timur. At the time, the regime is using the feed-in tariff policy. And then under the same feed-in tariff policy, at the time, there are also another project in Gorontalo, for instance, and so on and so forth. And we have also in 2017 signed the PPA. This is the solar farm at Likupang. It's in North Sulawesi. It's in Minahasa Utara. In total, they have 21 megawatt peak ground mounted. And then there is also some other project in Nusa Tenggara Barat.
Fantastic.
I think this could give you an overview on what kind of ground-mounted project that we have in Indonesia.
All right, so we're still quite small, but we're growing, and the opportunities are there, as Fabi's identified. So how about we move on to the next question? So what is driving the utility sector ahead? What subsidies and incentives are available for developers? Kanaka, you are going to talk a little bit on this one, if we can, and hear a little bit about the subsidies and incentives available to us.
Yes, thank you very much, Fit, for the questions. Actually, I hope everyone can hear me clearly. What is driving the utility sector in Indonesia definitely is basically because Indonesia has a very vast amount of renewable energy potential, solar, wind, hydro, and everything. And we are still very low at what you call utilizing this potential actually. What drives it more actually, basically, because that we have almost 280 million citizens, which is basically there's more power that needs to be supplied in the future. And we are one of the the growing country in the world. We are predicted to become number 6 biggest economy in the world by 2040. And as we know, the wind of the world right now is changing into sustainable energy, wind energy, and we are still heavily influenced in our energy mix, 89% of it by fossil fuel. And our target is at this moment is by 2025, we would like to reach 23% and net zero emission by 2040, 2050 actually. So that is what is driving the big players to come at the utility scale in Indonesia. And for that, Indonesia government has prepared several incentive actually. At this moment, there's no subsidies that government provide for renewable energy, but there are some incentives that could make especially a renewable energy project more interesting in Indonesia. The first one is tax allowance, where you get basically almost 30% of tax allowance from your investment cost actually. That's the first one. The second one is actually that you will get zero on income tax actually. Basically, sorry, not income tax, sorry, import tax basically. If you are doing renewables, the government will provide you with 0% import tax. And the third one, I think this is the biggest key actually. The third one is basically a tax holiday, where you can get facility like this through our Board of Investment, BKPM, where if your project is above 500 billion rupiah, and you can get 100% tax holiday up to 100% within 5 to 20 years of your project time actually. If it's below that, then you can only get 50% of tax holiday actually. Yeah, so that is what is driving, and the incentives are currently right now in Indonesia actually.
Okay, so to summarize, there are 3 subsidies available: a tax allowance at 30%, a zero tax on imported goods, and a tax holiday above 500 million IDR, and below that it's a 50% tax holiday. Have I summarized that correctly?
Yep, excellent.
Those look ideal. And I'm sure many of us on the call today weren't aware of those. So that's really kind to make educate us on them and explain their availability. Is there any other opportunities for subsidies and incentives that any of the panel are aware of that we haven't covered today?
Yes, definitely, definitely. The biggest driving, what you call biggest driving subsidies that any developer dream of is actually a high pricing actually, and I believe that the Indonesian government with several energy association and also ITP are discussing about renewable energy act, and also the second one, the most important one, I think this moment is the presidential decree, which basically will set a ceiling price for renewable energy project to make it attractive in Indonesia actually to welcome more investors. This is led directly by our presidential staff team, coordinating with our Minister of Finance, coordinating Minister of Maritime and Economics, and also our Energy Minister actually. So that is something right now the government is cooking. Hopefully, it can be issued soon, and it could open up the bottleneck of renewable energy development in Indonesia.
Okay, and that's a ceiling price that's available for rooftop and ground mount, or just CNI?
That is for utility scale actually. Yeah.
So utility scale, so that's just the ground mount, and is it over 5 megawatts or maybe over 1 megawatt?
There's several metrics in there. It could go below as small as below 1 megawatt, if I recall correctly, Kit. And it basically is from 1 to above 20 megawatts. There's several pricing structure that is government is preparing for that.
Brilliant. And when can we hear more about that, Kanaka?
I don't know for sure. The discussion has been ongoing almost a year, but it got what you call it got help because of the COVID situation and everything. But basically, um, all of the renewable energy market, the stakeholder is trying to push for this presidential decree to be issued actually, and it's something that probably Pak Tony or from the government stakeholder can answer actually.
Okay, we'll come on to it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time, but Kanaka, thank you very, very much. And I'm sure people can get hold of your department if they need to ask some more questions. Would that be right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Fantastic. Okay, great. We have a third question, and I think Maddie's going to answer this. What interventions are required to boost the growth of solar in Indonesia from a developer's perspective? So, what do developers need, Maddie, to encourage us to operate in this sector?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Kate. I just would like to continue what Kanaka mentioned. It's agreed on the overall basis in Indonesia that the incentives provided by the government is a lot in Indonesia, and hence global players are coming into Indonesia and are very much attracted to the utility projects. In regards to the intervention, this could actually bring more of a relief for developers in this case. And the interventions, in my opinion, is the form of designated team to look into the timeline and the procedures of the overall the procurement process that is conducted by PLN. As we may know, in the utility projects in Indonesia, there exists three procurement process, which is direct appointment, direct selection, and also open tender. That is already widely known, available, but only with positive interventions, Kate, the hurdles and the challenges that exist throughout these process of the so-called three process mentioned can be reported back, and eventually it can help the government to help, yeah, in developing the much needed regulation, because in my opinion it needs to be a more dynamic. Of course the market can change, such for instance local content is required nowadays, but it needs some interventions in regards to, is the local content really needed for utility projects in Indonesia or not? So that needs to be addressed. And we know for a fact that recently there is going to be a team, a task team, yeah, for monitoring the CNI solar rooftop projects. But for utility projects, is that I think it's also needed, as the procurement process for the projects that has been won by developers in the past had several hurdles and challenges, and we need to identify them. And from this identification, then we will provide a good solution. So I think those are the interventions that is needed from the stakeholders, in this case, the government side, Kate. And if we were to be able to address them, it will bring a much more positive effect. Hearing coming from the incentives, like what Kanaka mentioned, and just to add in what Kanaka mentioned is that we can't forget that in Indonesia there is is a possibility for the accelerated depreciation of utility projects that's already been allowed. So that could also increase the interest in utility projects. And also, in this case, the Ministry of Finance guarantees the payments if an event or worst case scenario, PLN fails to pay the contract. So based on these, it's already a good intervention that is provided by the government of Indonesia, and that needs to be added more. I think that will be my answer. Okay.
Okay, Maddie, could I just get you to
Yeah.
clarify the three options for ground mount solar? There's direct selection, there's direct appointment. Did you call option number 2?
Yeah, so basically in Indonesia, Kate, for the IPP projects and utility projects, it can be done through direct selection or direct appointment, direct selection, and also open tender. Nowadays, open tender is not so widely used for solar PV projects. However, since we in Indonesia have that pre-qualification blanket called DPT, that is part of the procurement process. And in for in any case, the procurement process of PLN is already inside a guideline and procedures. But
Yes.
what I meant by intervention is actually to know what are the hurdles, because we know for a fact that the days, the period, timings is all set or not set. I mean, written down. But we also need to find out, are those days really in reality um, doing the actual days, or is it much more longer than the period that it is mentioned?
Yes. So, for our listeners, I think, and I'll come on to it in my question next, I think,
Yeah.
but the
And I think
awareness
that
of
goes for the utility for the CNI rooftop project as well. Okay, so it's two things that is nearly the same.
yes. And I think that one query I have out of that information is understanding the grid capacity available at substations from PLN, having a process available to us developers to check what capacity is available, so that if we're given a direct selection opportunity, or we wish to apply, what we know what that process is. And I'm not sure that's available to us as yet.
Yeah.
So maybe through the Solar Trade Association, we could understand from PLN what that process might look like to understand substation capacity. But maybe we can come on to that, and some questions might come onto the floor. If I go to question number 4, what are
Uh,
the up and coming tenders?
um, you have posted a question for Spencer, ma'am. We would like to hear it from her. So the question is why we should consider string inverters over central ones. So Spencer, ma'am, can you please answer that? And we would like to know more about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Priscilla. So actually, there's a trend that we are using the centralized string inverters instead of the central inverters for the utility scales. And I will just explain the technical reasons why people prefer to use the string inverters now. Firstly, central inverters needs an external combiner box, so it can cause the failure rates of more than 5% over the lifetime. And if the fuse of the central inverters is melted, you will need to find it and replace it, and that may take a lot of work. And while for the string inverters, we won't need that. And besides, we can always have one or two spare strings depending on the capacity in the case of the string inverters, and we can change them when it is needed. And the redundancy can also be improved. And also the downtime will be less. Objectively, both string and central inverters have their pros and cons. String inverters has the main advantage of with multiple MPPTs, so it can reduce the impact on the production due to the shading or the defects of the PV modules. Another factor string inverter solving is the mismatch loss when the PV module degradation happens. Although it is very marginally difference of 0.6 to 0.8, but as the years is increased between the years, we can find out that the expectancy of your plant is also decreasing. So the string inverters actually allows the maximum production for any degradation that is potentially happening. Other advantages are like we have string inverters will have a long operations and easy to be installed, and it can also have a better system visibility. But disadvantages are like higher operation and maintenance for the distributed locations and the longer AC conductors. However, with the string inverters flexible design in the large projects, we also have solutions to make up these disadvantages. We can use a centralized string inverter system that will actually increase the system efficiency and also includes the string inverter skids or something like one container. So this container we are actually called the virtual central. So although this virtual central will need longer DC cable designs, but it may slightly raise the cost of the system, but we can also gain more from the system because it is more easier for the maintenance and operations. And actually, we are saving the installation later as well. So this has been done in very large applications right now in China. And we can also install the inverter on the individual skid and build the frame close to the transformer pad. So this way, some inverter troubleshooting and the firmware can be performed remotely. And so it can help reduce the operation and maintenance time as well. So that's almost all reasons that the EPCs prefers to choose the string inverters now.
Brilliant, Spencer. Thank you very much. And perhaps you could write while we're listening to the speakers, write that up in a brief so that the listeners can take that away while we're continuing, which might work quite well. I'm going to go back to Maddie's point. Maddie, you mentioned local content and panels being produced and equipment being produced in Indonesia. I think that's a really valid point. I think there's a balance to be struck. There might be too much construction going on to absorb the production at the moment. So desire might outstrip what's available to us. But a pointer perhaps for the Indonesian manufacturers or assembly plants is we're really in need of tier 1 modules. So if they can get their modules produced to be approved by the banks and the funders, I know that would really help us as developers to be able to use their modules. I know Trina and other sponsors of the conference are looking to assemble in Indonesia as well. But I know it's a key requirement for developers. So thank you very much for making that point in your explanation for question 3. Question 4, what are the up and coming tenders for utility solar, and what support are developers expecting from the government? I've been elected to talk to this one on myself, so I'll keep it brief. But I think support developers are requiring is publication of the tenders so that that is really readily available. We understand that we need to be part of the DPT qualification process. We're wondering if in tenders that landowners and local government have been informed about the tenders so that they're aware that developers will come knocking, as it were, especially those who win the tender, to talk to local landowners. So what preparation has been made around the tenders and what local CSR responsibility has been indicated around those tenders? I think that that would be very important to understand. I'm assuming that PLN will indicate the substation capacity within the tender so that we know what is available and what scale that we can possibly develop at. Awareness of tenders, I'm of the understanding that tenders are going to come forth with regards to replacing the diesel generators. And I think 200 megawatts of tenders are going to come forth from the departments and possibly split into 4 tenders with 50 megawatts each. I'll stand corrected on that, but I think that's going to be a really exciting start for the tender process for bidders to take part. And to replace the diesel gensets, I think is one of the key initial early directives for us all. And we can see how the local areas who are not reliant on the coal or the gas and are reliant on the diesel generator sets, how that interfaces with their local energy consumption. So that's the support that I'm aware of that developers might need. There's the BOO and the BOOT opportunities that will be within the tenders, which will be interesting for the different entities in the market. So this is also interesting. I think the PPA element of the tenders will also require a lot of preparation, and it would be nice to forward understand maybe the heads of terms within those PPAs that are going to come alongside those tenders. So maybe through the trade association or through the government, we could post up some information that's useful to developers around the tender process and what's available to those who are tendering. Has anybody got anything they'd like to add on that? I've just highlighted a few points that I know have come to my mind around the tender process. Anybody from the floor? Perhaps Fendi being an EPC provider and supporting entities in tender processes. I don't know if you've got to that stage yet.
Hi, Kate. Yep. We as an EPC actually, in the last couple of years, we basically concentrate on the CNI. So not pretty much on the utility sectors, where used to be our focus, when we started our company 13 years ago. So yeah, there's been slight changes in our priority now. That's because of again, I would like to mention, I think that relates to the question that I'm going to answer later, why CNI is basically catching up, especially after what Fabi mentioned. doubles, like almost 200% since the regulation is in place in 2018. That's because of like the shorter development time compared to the utility. Of
Yeah.
course, like you need utility, like you can have like much bigger capacity in one project site, like in one tender. But of course, like the development time is also significantly longer as well. Pak Tony also mentioned like the floating in Cirata. I think like it's been a couple of years as well, and we are glad to hear like it's so up and coming this year. But that in contrast to the CNI sector that usually only take like less than a year to develop. I know that doesn't answer your question, but like that's the reason like why we focus more on the CNI now. Okay.
Well, I think you've raised a really good point, which is maybe for the government to understand that what we actually need for the tender process is for it to be much faster. You know, possibly they need to create a structure and a process within the tender opportunity that defines, 3 months, 4 months for development, PPA engagement, and then, 6 months for construction and then grid connection, so that everybody is working to a fast and timely project management process. Maybe that's a key piece that government needs to understand, and is a turn off for developers, because the timescale is so long to get a large process underway that it really turns people off, even if they want to do it, because it's so hard.
I believe you summarize like what everyone on the floor trying to say. I think okay, I think you summarize it in one sentence. Everyone here best like wanting the government to simplify and like shorten the development time for the utility, because like there are still many opportunities there, especially like outside Java and Bali, where like again like I would like to mention like the utility in Indonesia now are mainly like outside Java and Bali because of like the way that TLN, our state electricity company, developed. We have like the production costs different from one area to another, and solar will definitely be like a lot more financially feasible for the area not connected to the grid, main grid of Java and Bali. They still like
Yes.
using diesel power plant, and like as we all know, like diesel costs a lot more than like solar. So you can imagine like in the process, the tender, like pretty much like straightforward, and like in a shorter time, like developer will be jumping in, and like everyone in the industry stakeholder will actually accelerate the development of utility sector. Sorry.
Okay, maybe that's something we can focus on as a group of developers and EPCs as part of the trade association, to feed this back into government to see if we can really streamline this process and make advice towards them. I'd better move on to the next question, which is, what are the current tariffs seen in the utility space and how will they evolve further? Now, I've got Kanaka against this one. Kanaka, are you able to come in and talk about the current tariffs in the utility space?
Yes, definitely, Kate. Thank you for the question. So currently, the current tariff in Indonesia is the one that is reached financial close is the Cirata floating solar. They got a financial close at 5.8 cents actually for the project, and also the for the ground mounted, also it is in Bali Solar, 2 times 25 megawatt in Bali. They are winning the bid at 5.8 and 6 point something. I'm sorry, I forgot 6 point something. But basically, those are the what do you call the current project that is almost Cirata already reached financial close. Bali is on the way to get approval for that. And then but last year there was a tender by PLN subsidiaries Indonesia Power called Indonesia, where basically the price that is put by Middle East company is staggering. It's amazing basically. They are putting a bid around 3.6 to 3.8 cents for floating solar project, for ground mounted solar project, and even including with batteries, they can go submit a bid 7 cents actually. So let me clarify about all of this pricing. Actually, most of the developers who came to Indonesia definitely the medium-sized company, hoping that they can get a higher tariff in Indonesia. But that is not the case because of the potential renewables market in Indonesia. The big players are coming in Indonesia with their experience winning the bid for developing bridge financial close for a project 2 gigawatt in Middle East, 1 gigawatt in Latin America, 1 gigawatt in South Africa. So from my point of view, as a developer, recently mainstream just won 1.3 gigawatt of wind and solar out of 2.6 gigawatt tender in South Africa. We are winning it at the price around 2.4 cents, 2.6 cents, and we are hoping we can replicate that number to Indonesia. We know we cannot get below 3 cents. I think it will be hard for us to get below 3 cents, but basically in the future, what I see, especially for the ground-mounted solar, the pricing will be around 3 to 4 cents actually. For utility scales, let's say above 20 or 30 megawatt, I think that will be the benchmark that PLN will welcome, and also that is what the number that the developer with the experience will try to achieve to bring in that pricing to Indonesia actually. So I think it will be very competitive. It will be it will be challenging and competitive at the same time actually. So really looking forward to more tendering process actually. All of this low pricing can only be done if there are continuity of procurement process in Indonesia. It is very key. For South Africa, they need 6 years to reach that price. They open up a procurement, a very small one, like 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt yearly, and it goes up, and then with that continuity of procurement, it brings the what you call the solar panel manufacturing company into building their factory in South Africa. With that, the price can be lower. And basically, I'm really hoping that Indonesia government, especially PLN and ESDM, could at least take a look how South Africa did it actually. I think they also impose on local content 40%. They also impose on local ownership 20% of local ownership. That is something that I really believe that Indonesia government should look at the how South Africa can achieve those low prices and the continuity of procurement actually. Yeah.
I think your point is well made, and it links back up to Maddie's point. Capacity and uptake drives everything. So if Indonesia wants to see a low tariff around 4 cents, and we're starting at 6 at the moment, we have to have the uptake and the key developments going in very fast. To create that price, you need to be looking at 6-7 gigawatts. I don't think you're going to achieve that price between 1 and 3 gigawatts. But when you go over 3 gigawatts, you'll start to see the price come down because assembly and manufacture will occur in Indonesia. So it's all linked. So I think if we can support the government and advise them with how to speed up the tender and the direct selection process and to understand the grid capacity so that we can all operate simultaneously and not in a linear fashion, the uptake will increase in line with what the government wants, and the uptake will drive the reduction in price. You make a very key point about local ownership, and I think that the SPVs in owning the utility scale projects will look to have local owners in them, and I think that that's absolutely key for Indonesia. And then again, the land owning price, the reason my understanding is that the floating solar can come in so cheaply is the surface water rental price is quite low. But the issue we have with ground mount tenders and opportunity is the land price for the rental of the land can be considerably high. If you're looking at doing a ground mount project in Java, for instance, the ground mount price per hectare can be absolutely enormous. And this drives up the energy price and the tariff. So, you can possibly construct at 4 cents, but when you take into consideration the land rental or purchase, whatever the deal might be, you're going to drive that, you're going to double that price again. So it'll vary between island to island. So in Java, you might be able to produce the power for 4 cents, but the land cost will drive it up to 8 to 10 cents. So I think, we must be very careful. On the technical side, we can reach a price, but the land cost drives the ultimate tariff. And this is why I mention in the tender process that PLN and the government are offering is it's very important to have these conversations with the local Bupati and the local landlords to understand what a fair price looks like. Because if that land price goes through the roof, then the cost of production goes through the roof. So everything is linked, and that's why it all needs to be prepared so carefully. Would be my slight warning or caveat to driving the price down. So in Africa, where we also operate in Shire Oak, we're very familiar with the land cost, and due to the expanse of land, it can be extremely cheap. But I don't think that's the case in Indonesia. So I wouldn't like to give the government false hopes at the tariffs that can be achieved. I don't know if anybody else has got any comment on that.
Hi, Kate. I try to respond for what your question that about the tariff. Actually, as we know that the Indonesia tariff is quite low, but in some area the price is still okay. Yeah. The problem now is because introduce me. My name is Mada. I'm the managing director for Ariwatola Capital. I'm a developer, ITP developer, but I'm also now as a vice chairman for the Indonesia Solar Association. And responding to what Kate asking about the tariff, as we know all that the price is competing to the coal power plant, the BPP. In other parts of Indonesia, maybe in eastern part is still good, isolated still good, but the problem is the scale is not too big. So I think we have to create or making the project looking feasible by doing clustering project, something like that. Otherwise, if the scale is too small, that we have to making the project as a blended finance. Because if we using the money from the bank and using the private equity, it will be very hard to make it the project feasible. For example, like what I'm doing now in some area in the central Kalimantan, I'm doing for several villages. The potential is there. There is no PLN at all. The problem is that the pricing in that area not too high because the solar there, they are still using the subsidized one. So we cannot find what is the actually the real number if the fuel on the isolated area. That's the problem because the pricing cannot be like clarified to be like adjusted to this number of the pricing of or the tariff of the electrification there. So I think what I want to say that we have to make it a cluster project, make it the size visible, and then the tariff I think will go adjust to that scale of the project itself. Otherwise it will be very hard to do in those isolated area. Maybe now for the CNI, for the big scale, the tariff seems like okay, but we don't only want, because Indonesia is an island country, so we want actually to reach out our families who are living not far from Java, something like that.
Okay, so I'm just trying to summarize what you've said. So the isolating the cost of power production in the remoter regions and the islands can be quite difficult. Is that right? And when you're not quite sure of what the cost of current production is, it makes it hard to establish what a renewable tariff might be. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I tried to do the simulation on those villages. So I found that we have to do, like I said, like a blended finance. Maybe we can or have a solution for this. because after I make the calculation, it should be there is like 20 up to 30% grant to make the project feasible. At least the IRR is not too low. Yeah, I mean low is a single digit, but still above 6 or 7%.
I mean, I think most investors would want the IRR to be, towards 10%. So
Yeah, that's why.
a grant would help. Where would this grant come from, madam?
Yeah, now I'm proposing for like some donors. I'm trying to make this project to be replicated if there is the grant dispersed, but I'm still waiting. But from my calculation, we have like 28% grant to make the project feasible, so we can reach the IRR around 10%.
And what scale is that, madam? How
The
many megawatts?
scale only to 200 kilowatt peak.
So that's 200 kilowatt peak, and that's CNI, is it?
No, no, that one is
No, no.
yeah, on the village. The
Okay.
rural.
So what is the average scale, do you think, in the villages and the more remote islands that will be required? Do you think it's around 200 kilowatt peak, or will we see a range sort of between 1 megawatt down to 200 kilowatt peak?
Yeah, maybe I think the project may be quite good if up to 500 kilowatt peak in for rural area.
Okay. So if we can, make developers interested in doing 500 kilowatt peak ground mount
Yeah.
projects that potentially are eligible for a local subsidy that pushes the IRR up towards 10%, we could create a formulaic approach for the remote islands, possibly. That means, the numbers are known, the developers understand what's needed, and the manufacturers understand what component parts would be ideal. We could almost create a package.
Yeah. So maybe Fendi can add about this because he works in every isolated area in Indonesia. So I think from the contractor side, he must be know better than me.
Okay, well, we'll come back to Fendi on that one if we've got time. I'm sure that the conference is wanting me to press through the questions. And maybe when we get to question number 9, Fendi, you can cover that off. Would that work well with you?
Yes, Kate. More than happy. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to the potential of floating projects. Now, we had Tony on this, but he's actually covered it. And I think we're probably all aware that floating solar projects are going on. They're very popular to Indonesia. They don't take up the land. They reduce the evaporation of water, certainly for the water companies. So there's many benefits. And I think the surface rental price is quite low, so it's very attractive. So I'm going to step over that one in the interests of time and go to Tony around what are the financing options available for utility solar projects. If you might be able to come in there. Piriani mentioned that she was intoning with regards to government financing options available. If you were aware of any.
Yeah, I think the financing for this project is mostly we invite the private investors because we have limited budget for the government budget to execute the projects that are already mentioned in the Green RUPTL. So we are inviting private sector to participate in this project. We set up the market, as you might already know, that in the Green RUPTL, or the Utilities General Plan 2021 to 2030, we have opened a market for solar PV around 4.7 gigawatt. This is from 2021 to 2030. This is not including the uh, rooftop PV, which is already mentioned 3.61 until 2025.
Could somebody put in the chat the link to the tender site for developers to tender in the government process? That might be really useful for listeners on the call. As just a thought, the link for tender application. Maybe, Piriani, you could get that at the end and post it up for everybody, because I think that would be extremely useful. I'm going to, Tony, thank you very much for that answer. But it almost leads on to policies and initiatives and schemes and government subsidies driving the rooftop sector. Possibly Tony and Kanaka, you could help and support with that one.
Yeah, I think it's already mentioned by Pak Fabi earlier in this session. There is no subsidy for now for rooftop, but we are already enacted the ministerial regulation for PV rooftop, MEMR regulation number 26, year 2021, that in this regulation, the provisions for export of electricity from the rooftop PV is changed to 100%, which is originally 65%, and the extension of notification to 6 months, which is originally 3 months. And then the application-based service mechanism and services are shorter from 15 days to 5 days. The PV rooftop customers and the license holders can also trade the carbon, and the expansion of not only the PLN customers, but customers in non-PLN business areas could also apply for this rooftop PV program. And there is also some establishment of the PV rooftop system complaint center to receive and follow up on complaints on the implementation of PV rooftops. And as you might already aware that earlier this morning, we also have launched the funding incentives for the PV rooftop in cooperation with UNDP. We have a grant of 23.6 billion, and it is targeted to have 5 megawatt peak installation for 1,296 customers, with micro, small, and medium enterprises as the main priority.
Okay, and is that subsidy of the 23.6 billion, that's available to the rooftop owner, or that's available to the developer?
To the EPC.
To the EPC, to the developer. Okay, so the entity putting the system onto the roof. And when you say the export is changed to 100% from, did you say 65 or 85?
65%.
Yeah, and it's now to 85. Does that, and how
No,
does that
it's
affect
65 to 100%.
65 to 100%? And is that impacting overspill? Is that possible at all?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Overproduction. So if a solar rooftop overproduces by 10%, what happens to that electricity? Does PLN buy that overproduction, or is that netted back to the client in the new regulation?
There is no transaction here because this is the net metering system. So basically, the clients do not sell the excess electricity to the PLN, but any excess will be nullified within 6 months. The previous one is nullification is 3 months period.
3 months. Brilliant. So that's been expanded, and that provides a little bit more leeway to everybody to understand the netting back process. Okay, so that's really opened it up. I know in Vietnam they've opened up the overspill now to 20%, which seems to be really accelerating the market. Maybe that's something that Indonesia will look towards in the future, but it's not there at the moment. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next question, which is to Fendi. How has the solar installations in Indonesia this year in the rooftop space? How are they coming along?
Well, thanks, Kate. Yep. I think we discussed and mentioned a couple of times about rooftop in this session, and we have seen a tremendous growth in the rooftop section in Indonesia, especially in the CNI, commercial and industrial. And I think we also experience it ourselves. Mada mentioned that we are known for developing off-grid and hybrid when we started our company 13 years ago. That's when I met Mada as well. We built many off-grid in rural, remote islands, but that changed drastically after the government regulation actually in place in 2018, like Baby mentioned earlier. And then the growth rate is almost 200%, and that's because many uh, regulation actually supporting and also many aspects. I would like to highlight some of that actually trigger the acceleration. It's also the reason why we have this session today is because of the presence of developers, like both local and international, including yeah, Shire Oak as well coming to Indonesia. And I think that's the key actually. I mean, regardless the business, regardless what industry it is, but the financial support always play a crucial factor here. And by developers present in Indonesia providing uh, the OPEX or leasing scheme, that really accelerate the development of rooftop in Indonesia. So I think that's the key. I mean, amidst all other factors, including regulation and also awareness in the commercial and industrial are better than residential, but developers' presence, I think that help us a lot. And I would like to touch a little bit about uh, because Kate mentioned about in floating that you have a very low rental for the water surface, and land acquisition cost could be high as well for the ground mounted. In rooftop is pretty much it's already available there. So that's the interesting part, although we do have some issues sometimes when we meet a condition that basically it's an old roof that need roof strengthening, and of course that will uh, like you know uh, incur additional costs, but that's considered quite insignificant compared to other rental costs. So that's also the the reasons. And Indonesia being a manufacturing country, we have a lot of roof for solar panel to get installed there. So that's also uh, the reason why. And also just now uh, Pak Tony mentioned about all the incentives together the program with the UNDP, that's all on the rooftop. And again, to touch again with the off grid, we haven't seen that kind of incentives and new development in the utility sector. So this is the contrast between the rooftop and the utility sectors. So that's the reason why rooftop, especially in the CNI, has surpassed utility in a big time. And when we discuss about the size, CNI is also catching up quite rapidly as well, because if we go back 2018 or even before that, it's only a low single digit megawatt install capacity. But now we install 5 megawatt in one factories, and even more than 10 megawatt in one project. So that's catching up really quickly. So if we compare with the utility sectors Bali, uh, Kanaka mentioned 2 times 25, the commercial industrial also can install more than 10 megawatt in one location. And with shorter turnover, oh sorry, development time, when you accumulate, that will be a lot bigger number compared to the utility sectors that has a longer development time, and not as many projects as what we have in rooftop. I think
Would
that's
you
sorry.
So would you consider the opening up slightly of the rooftop market to be able to build to the rooftop area capacity over and above the dia that's on a customer's bill would significantly again accelerate the market? I'm finding that if the bill for the customer, the grid connection is 5 megawatts or well, maybe 10 megawatts, but they only utilize maybe 3, there is a big difference. And if it's an enormous roof, one could build on it. But at the moment, under regulation, one can't.
That will be like, a good trigger actually for the development. But again, like you said, unfortunately, the regulation still like, put a cap there about the maximum install capacity. So I agree with you. Like, if we basically remove that restriction, that would be like, a tremendous like trigger in the rooftop. And I think like, if we can convince the government that we're not competing with PLN or our state electricity company in this case, and don't look at it like, as a lost opportunity for them, but it's like one of the mechanisms to diversify the energy mix. I mean, like, that would be a good trigger. That's actually a really great idea, Kate, if we can actually advocate and convince PL and the government of Indonesia as well.
I think it will be essential, because when I look down on the rooftops, I see partial rooftops covered with solar and maybe 3/4 of the company's rooftop not covered with solar because it's not permitted. But you have all that capacity there. And while you have engineers and everybody on site, it would make sense to cover the whole roof with solar. So maybe these are ideas for the future that we can take to your trade association to put forward. And as you say, the OPEX and the leasing schemes now coming in due to the capital achieved by developers is really attractive for industry as well. They can lease their rooftops to developers who can then ask entities such as yourselves to manage the construction. And I look forward to that really accelerating the opportunity as well. Has anybody got any other comments on what could accelerate the industry for CNI?
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but we are running out of time. And also, we have a lot of questions from the audience. So, I would request all the speakers can pick up some questions and answer it in the chat box itself, and we can wrap up the session if that's okay.
Yes, certainly. Do you want me to read out the questions and then ask if some of the panelists can answer them?
No, ma'am. What I am requesting you to do is each panelist can pick up questions of the choice and answer in the Q&A box itself. Since we are running a little late, so we can wrap up the session now.
Well, maybe I'll help, because otherwise I think it will go a bit quiet. So we've got a question from Dalvin. Please spell out the rebates. Dalvin, what do you mean here? The rebates for rooftop solar? Perhaps you can let us know.
Uh, Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. I was just requesting if these questions can be answered in the chat box itself, so we can wrap the session up.
Okay, got it. All right. So if panelists can answer those questions in the text fields, that would be great. So may I say thank you very, very much to Mr. Fabi Tumua and also to Spencer Zhu. That is so kind for your presentations and informing us of the market. And Prishinina, thank you for chairing this and making it all possible through Indonesia Solar Week and inviting us all to take part. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, all our esteemed panelists, for this wonderful session. And special thanks to Kate ma'am and Fabi sir for coming to the event and giving his valuable opening remarks. And Kate ma'am, thank you so much for superbly managing the session. You were absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for terrific and very professional example you have set as a moderator. It was pleasure to have you all and having such a well planned and highly energetic panel discussion. Thank you all the panelists. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kate. great moderator there.
Looking forward to listening to the next session after the break.
Yeah. Welcome back, attendees. It's time now for our second session. Let me see how many people are active with us. Can you hit the like button and show me the energy level? Yeah, I can see all the thumbs up, and that makes me feel better that so many people are active with us. So now, without any further delay, we'll be having our sponsor presentation by Mr. Xiong Boom Lin, who is the head of product and marketing APAC from China Solar. Kindly share your screen, sir, and start with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. So let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, yeah. Thank you everyone for the time today to participate in the webinar. I'm Lim from China Solar. So I'll take the opportunity to bring everyone through China Solar as a company and also what solar modules that we are offering from China Solar. So just a brief background. We are established in 1997 and we have more than 20 years of experience in solar module manufacturing. So these are the few key milestones along our growth as one of the world leader solar module manufacturer. So one of the very key important milestones is that we have registered ourselves onto the Shanghai Star Market in 2020 and also launched our ultra high power 600 watt plus modules. In terms of globalization, we have cumulative shipment of more than 70 gigawatt and serving more than 100 customers worldwide, and we have about 15,000 employees that's working together at Trina Solar. And based on the Bloomberg New Energy and Finance ranking, we have been ranked the top most bankable module supplier for 6 years. So there's an achievement that we have got 6 times in a row over the past 2016 to 2021. In terms of our footprint in Asia Pacific, over the last 3 years, we have shipped more than 9 gigawatt of modules, and we are definitely one of the top 3 module suppliers in the Asia Pacific region. Myself, I'm based out of Singapore, which is also our Asia Pacific headquarters. In terms of new leading technology, we have launched our Vertex series ultra high power modules in 2020. And then we are also looking at N-type iTopCon products, which will be available very soon. And at the same time, we also have our reserve HGT technology, which is currently in the R&D process, and we are working on the next step of mass production. So just to recap on the module power trend, how it has developed over the last 10 years. So you can see now, especially from 2020 onwards, it has been especially exciting, where we see module power beams of reaching 500 and almost a 50 watt to 100 watt increase every half a year. So fast forward now to 2022, we are almost looking at up to 700 watt of solar modules that can be considered to be using N-type technology and also maybe HJT technology. So when we first started the 600 watt plus module, there was only about 30 plus companies inside the alliance. But in 2020, so over the span of 1 year, 1.5 years, almost 89 companies have since joined this alliance. And definitely we are seeing going forward, 600 watt plus modules will be the benchmark for the new PV solar installations. So this is our comprehensive Trina Vertex family product line. So you can see starting from the left, this is our Vertex S, which is up to about 405 watt. This is mainly targeted for the residential market. And in the center, we have the 18, 19, 20 series. So these are respectively 500 watt, 550 watt, and up to 600 watt. And on the extreme right will be our 21 series, which is mainly up to about 670 watt and targeted for utility ground-mounted large-scale projects. So in terms of supporting the Indonesia market, so we have recognized that there's a requirement on the SNI certification. So we have also applied the relevant models for the SNI certification. So you can see here, this is the models that we have received the SNI certification, and mainly it covers all our latest range of products, which is the 210 mm, the 19 series, 20 series, and also the 21 series. Then in terms of technology that we are putting into our solar module, starting from the top left corner, we are using the largest solar cell now, which is 210 mm. And to couple with this, we have increased our number of bus bar, which will be 12 bus bar for the 210 mm. And because the cell is also bigger, we have also upgraded our cutting. So we are using non-disrupting cutting method, which is using a low temperature laser to slide through the cell so that we can achieve a similar mechanical loading capabilities as a non-cut full cell. At the same time, on the bottom right, we are also incorporating the high density interconnection technology. So essentially, this is to minimize the gap between each cell so that we can improve the module efficiency by optimizing the overall dimension of the solar module. So just a bit more details on our flagship product, which is our Vertex Ultra High Power 670 watt module. So you can see here the dimension is about 2.3 by 1.3, and it weighs about 38.7 kilo. So it's available in both monofacial backsheet and also bifacial double glass. So this is based on our low voltage, high current design concept. So we have worked with the third party, Frankfurt, to do an assessment study on how this new product can compare against the others in the market. So we have chosen two sites, one in Germany, which is a monofacial fixed tube, and one in Spain, which is a bifacial one portrait tracker. So for both of the case study, we see that when we use the Vertex 210 up to about 665 watt, when we compare against the others in the market, we are able to achieve capex savings and also reduce the LCOE. So these savings mainly come from the multi-installation, electrical systems, the freight cost itself, and also because of our low voltage, high current design, we are able to increase the single string power by about 32% as compared to the others. So all these factors, when we combine together, we're able to reduce the overall BOS cost at the system level. When we first launched this ultra high power large dimension module, so there was a lot of question on how we can ensure our module reliability and how we can work in real life solar projects. So to address this, we have done extensive testing and also do a lot of product optimization design. So you can see here, as compared to the others in the market, we are about 4.6% longer, but actually we are 3.4% shorter than the 182 series. So to support this larger dimension module, we have also optimized our frame design so that it's able to maintain the similar mechanical loading. So these are the 5 enhanced tests that we have performed in terms of the standard static load test, the non-uniform snow load test, the static load under extreme cold temperature, hill impact, enhanced dynamic load test, and also the wind tunnel test. So for the standard static load test is at the same level as compared to the conventional modules. So we can achieve the requirement of 5,400 Pascal front and 2,400 Pascal back for fixed tilt. Then for tracker itself is also depending on the configuration. We can reach up to 2,400 front and 2,400 back. Then we are also perform the hill impact test. So the test size is about 35 mm. So we have did this in the lab itself. So you can see a short video. This is how the test is being performed, where the hill itself is hit onto the module, and there's no significant damage that has happened to the module, and which resulted in any power degradation. Then we have also performed the enhanced dynamic load test, which is about plus minus 1,000 Pascal and 20,000 cycles. So this is a higher requirement as compared to the basic IEC standards. Then one of the important tests that we have also performed will be the wind tunnel test. So we have tested up to 62 meters per second, the extreme wind performance. So before that, we can see the different wind speed from 30 to about 59 meters per second, And finally, we can see at 53 meters per second, there's no problem to use Trina Vertex module. So because the modules now are bigger in size, so you can see on the left is the conventional two-stack packing method. So we have changed our packing method to a vertical placement. You can see on the picture on the right. And this is how it looks like inside a 40-foot container. So you can see because of the higher power of Trina modules, we're actually packing more power per container as compared to the others. So these are some of the examples that we have delivered for the large-scale solar projects. These are some in China, then we also have in Japan, and also in Korea. And we have also started delivery to the ASEAN region. This is one of the projects in Thailand. And in terms, because we are using the low voltage, high current design, so we have also worked with different inverter suppliers, so they are compatible with Trina Vertex modules. At the same time, for tracker itself, we also work with the top suppliers for tracking, so that they have a suitable design that can be used with Trina large dimension modules. So we have a design tool website, which if you're interested, please visit the website so you can choose the different modules, the different scenarios, and we can show you the matching brands of inverters and also the trackers. So lastly, Trina has already shipped about 10 gigawatt of Vertex, and we have signed more than 25 gigawatt of Vertex modules. So these are just some of the examples that we have already installed for rooftops, and also for ground-mounted projects, and also for floating projects. So the Trina Vertex module can also be used for the floating projects, which I think is of great interest for the Indonesian market. Okay, so with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful presentation. Now, proceeding with our next presentation by Mr. Anirudh Agarwal, who is the Senior Account Executive of the Solar Labs. So, over to you, sir.
Hi, thanks, Priyanshi. So I'll be taking a couple of minutes discussing about a couple of companies who have been digitally using the technology to digitally transform their business. Priyanshi, could you check? I'm not able to share my screen. Could you give me the access, please?
Just a minute, sir.
Sure, sure.
Sir, can you try doing it now?
This is saying that only one person can share the screen at the moment.
Lim, sir, can you stop sharing your screen? I believe that is the reason Anirudh sir is not able to do it.
Yes, I already stopped sharing my screen. So
Sure, sure.
Anirudh sir, can you just refresh once and try it again?
Sure, just give me a moment.
I believe you will be able to do it now. Thank you, audience, for having a little patience.
Hi. Yes, I'm able to do it. I'm just sharing my screen.
Sure, sir. So Anirudh sir is facing some kind of technical issue. By the time we will have our sponsor video of Trina Solar, requesting my team to play the video.
Hi Priyanshi, should I continue or get into the video first?
Thank you, team, for playing the video. Now, coming back to Anirudh sir's presentation. Sir, you can please proceed.
Sure, Priyanshi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, audience, for your patience. So I'm sharing my screen. Priyanshi, just let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Sure, sir.
Yes, it's visible.
No, sir, we can't see your screen now yet. Sir, we can't see your screen.
Just a moment, I've shared it.
Anirudh, sir, can you hear us?
Yeah. You can hear me, Priyanshi? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Binu, sir, can you see the screen? Since I am not able to see it, so confirming it with you.
No, we can't.
No, we are not able to see it. Can you
Might be.
try it once again, sir?
Yeah, I'm trying that. Just a moment.
Sure, sir.
What about now? Is it visible now? From my end, it's
Unfortunately, we cannot see it.
okay. Just a second.
Can you just share your screen and not select a PDF or a file?
Yes,
Maybe
I'm doing that.
perhaps.
I'm doing that itself. I'm
Yeah,
just
great. Thank you, audience, for your patience. Just an announcement for the audience. Please post the Q&A in the Q&A box, so our speakers can answer those questions in the end of the session.
I guess there is some issue with sharing my screen. I guess I'm not able to share it both ways, either in the PDF or in the share screen. So I guess Priyanshi, we can move ahead, and I can come back again after the presentation or the Q&A
Sure, sir,
session.
sure.
Right.
After the panel discussion, we can have your
We can have it
presentation, sir.
again. Sure. Right.
Sure. Thank you so much. So now it's time to have our much awaited panel discussion. And the discussion is on the big tech trends shaping the large scale solar. And in the esteemed panel, we have with us Mr. Milan K from Hexagon Peak, Ms. Jen Tan from Semcop Industries, who will be joining a little late, Mr. Binu George from BECIS Indonesia, Mr. Vayu Parvovo from TML Energy, Ms. Elva Wang from China Soda. So, welcoming all the panelists on the screen and handing it over to Milan sir. Kindly take it ahead.
Thanks,
Milan
Priyanshi.
sir, please turn on your camera.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Very well. Yes, I guess the camera needs a restart, which I did, and it still doesn't function. We're trying in a bit again. I'll just hand over the microphone to the panelists. Welcome, everyone. I guess the topic here is really technology and where will technology take us, particularly in Indonesia. And so when we talk about technology, it's probably important to make a transition from the previous discussion, which was more about how the market looked like. And there has been opinions that the CNI market in Indonesia will continue to grow. There is going to be a little bit more utility scale projects, and perhaps we're going to look at some floating installments as well. As of today, Indonesia is nowhere near extremely promising market. Yes, there is growth, and we can see this on the CNI segment, driven mostly by private PPAs. but essentially we will need a lot more regulations from the government in order to bring the market to a place where it belongs, with potentially 17.5 thousand microgrids all around the country and gigawatts of installed capacity every year. Uh, so I guess we are working in a little bit of an uncertain environment where, depending on government policies going forward, the market will develop in one way or another. But we can only take into consideration what we have today and perhaps estimate that in the future the conditions for bigger growth will be there. Um, if we focus on CNI alone, technology itself will not be a significantly interesting topic. So I would like to basically open the floor to everyone to introduce each other and maybe answer one very simple question, which may sound a little bit more as a joke, but the key here is really to imagine the impossible. And so my question is, when we are going to see in Indonesia a 1 gigawatt floating solar with trackers? Um, Perhaps again, this may be a little bit as a joke, but I just want to open your imagination of what could be the ultimate development in Indonesia and how this would look like in terms of utility scale project. Let's say in 2025. Please, let's start with Pak Bayu because you're the only Indonesian here on the call.
Hey, thanks, Pak. I okay. When a 1 gigawatt floating solar with trackers will be in Indonesia, I'm
Please
not sure how to.
introduce yourself and,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and do a little bit of yes. I know you don't, but essentially that was more of a joke. What is going to be the your boldest imagination?
yeah. Okay. My name is Wahyu Parbowo. I'm from TML Energy. It's a local EPC company, Indonesian EPC company. We've established this since 2011. Now it's our 11th years in EPC, solar EPC business, strictly on solar energy. So yeah, um, I'm inclined to be more optimistic, maybe, but Milan here because we since 2011 up to 2020 we've built 25 total in total 25 megawatt peak PV project, and only in 2021 we've built 25 megawatt peak project. So it's doubled in 1 year. We're looking forward to be more in the future. So yeah, hoping for realizing the 1 gigawatt floating with trackers maybe.
So the question is how to get from 25 megawatt to 25 gigawatt. And I guess technology will be involved. Um, Maybe it's not the key,
Mhm.
but essentially technology is there. Um, Binu, I suppose you guys are more active on the CNI segment. From what I see, the company in other countries, particularly Thailand, I guess. And so, are you very excited about the CNI segment in Indonesia? And how do you see technology applied to those projects? Is there any different from what you see in other Southeast Asian countries?
Thanks, Milan. Thank you very much for raising that question. First of all, good afternoon, everybody, and let me a warm welcome to all my fellow colleagues in the industry and all the participants, and also to congratulate all the efforts taken by the organizers for this Indonesia Solar Week 2022. Let me, before answering that, Milan, let me just give you a brief about BECIS. Yes, you are right. BECIS is a short for Berkeley Energy Commercial Industrial Solutions. So we are a renewable energy developer, providing distributed energy for our customers, helping them reduce their CO2 emissions and also help develop a roadmap towards carbon net neutral. And as you said that yes, we focus, so our Berkeley Energy, we do utility scale grid mounted projects also, and we have formed this finding the potential more into commercial and industrial application, this whole vertical as such. So we are right now developing solar PV. We also do bioenergy projects using agricultural waste, biogas, waste to heat recovery, combined heat and power, and any other green energy technology on a boot basis that we design, build, own, operate, and transfer. You are right. We are present in Asia Pacific, in Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, India, China, as well as in Indonesia. Now, echoing what from the session one we did, yes, of course, we feel that there is a great amount of a push, or rather a wave that is happening in the C&I segment, and the project size are not limited to some few kilowatts. It is going up to 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt. In some places where large industries are there, we are talking about multiples of 10 to 15 to 20 megawatts also. So I am very bullish about the C&I segment in Indonesia, and so we have traveled a lot, as far as the regime and the regulatory changes are concerned in the country, and I feel that it is more to come. And the utility segment, the grid mounted projects, uh, I'm not so bullish. Maybe I would have pockets of opportunity for grid large scale utility projects, but that would be fragmented. Not at all in Java Bali grid, but towards the rest of the part of Indonesia. But for C&I, yes, that's something we are very much bullish about in the next 2 to 3 years.
I hope you're right. Elva, can you please share with us what is your customers in Indonesia ordering? I'll be interested to find out, what panels are being deployed, since currently we're only or mostly talking about CNI. And also as a second question, how is pricing going to play out this year? Bloomberg is estimating that we're going to have a 10 to 15% decline in module prices by the end of this year. Is that the same from your perspective?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, actually, for Indonesian market, I think it's really a surprise. I can say, because we really waited for many years since like 2012. So yeah, we can also see the Indonesian market become very promising this year, including for China. We like work. My technical head, Mr. Lim, introduced, we already get all the models SNI certificate. So previously, we majority ship the 166 mm technology, the 450 watt panel to Indonesia, but mainly for like a residential project or small CNI. And starting from this year, we also ship a lot like our D19 series, 550 watt to Indonesia for the biggest CNI. Also, we will also already get order for our high voltage panel, 600 watt plus, to Indonesia for the biggest CNI. So I can see actually the Indonesia EPC developers are quite open. They also welcome the higher voltage to reduce their LCOE. This one we quite shocked actually, because it's very new technology, but it's very welcomed in the new market. Because I think the PPA rate is also become competitive, because many foreign investors, local investors also went to this market. Yeah, so for CNI part, I can see from 450 until 660 panel all welcome in Indonesia. According on pricing, yes, recently I also heard a lot of the ideas from like a PV Tech or Bloomberg. I think everyone is really looking forward for the price reduction this year. I can say actually it's good, for last year, our pricing for the panel pricing even increased to 30 cents. We went back to the 3.0. But good thing is from January, actually price already dropped lower than 30. But I cannot say this year the price will really drop like 10 to 20%. From our supplier side, we still believe this year really have the huge demand, no matter from China, India, Japan, or USA, even the whole Southeast Asia, Australian market. So we can see this year the price will be quite stable. For us, we think it will still maintain around the 26 to 28 this price range. But of course, we forecast next year, 2023, when the polysilicon capacity really released, maybe the price can drop a bit. But for this year, we are quite, how to say, we still follow this kind of price trend. I'm not sure, like Bloomberg said, 10 to 20% off, like how much rate they are looking at. Yeah.
Thank you. You're probably the first one that I experienced on a panel that I had that actually talks about prices. That's amazing. Do you think module manufacturers, including Trina, will be able to start giving forward pricing? That was something very troublesome in the past few quarters, particularly when it comes to big scale projects. Investors used to have troubles to get forward prices for 2 quarters ahead. Is this solved now in terms of raw material supply? Are you more confident to offer pricing ahead?
Of course, because for us, CNI is quite fast and a short period. But for the project, we must give our forecast and the prediction to every client. But I can say last year is also really big lesson for every supplier, because the cost really go to the very crazy and uncontrollable trend. So that's why this year we will also evaluate every raw material, not only polysilicon. We also will evaluate like EVA, glass, even some chemical material we use during the manufacturing process. So the purpose is to give the more accurate prediction to the client. Of course, even like other supplier give more aggressive pricing for one project. For Trina, we still stick to our prediction to inform them how we think about the market trend, how we think about the currency, how we think about the demand and the supplier. So we think this pricing maybe would be more comfortable for us, and it's also at least they want to really break their financial model again and again, especially for the big solar farm. Yeah.
That's good news. Thanks. Really hope that we're gonna get some forward prices soon. Baku, what do you see this year as total installations, and how do you split them in segments? I suppose majority will be CNI, but how much is that going to be? Is it 25 megawatt or is it 250 megawatt? Right now, the situation is that, including my daily work right now, is more than 50% evaluating some off-takers in Indonesia. I guess a lot of developers are having this problem. Indonesia financial statements of corporates are not the most transparent thing in the world. But we're not going to talk about this. The question really is, what is your expectations, and what to expect this year?
Okay. This year we looking from TML Energy point of view, we see that the Cirata project, the floating project, will commence, will be constructed this year, and there are some ground mounted project. We've come across maybe around 65 70 megawatt peak of ground mounted project, and CNI I think still increasing, but only in 2021 we've got 19, around 19 megawatt peak of our 25 megawatt are CNI, rooftop CNI. So yeah, maybe yeah, we can see an increase of in larger than 100 megawatt for this year.
Sounds good. I guess 100 megawatt is not huge, but it's the first milestone. Yeah, everything starts with 100 megawatt. So you mentioned a couple of floating projects. I'm aware of a couple of those, but from what I understand is that permits are a bit stuck on several of those projects. Do you see any movement into policy making for utility scale projects anytime soon? Because right now, yes, CNI is low hanging fruit for a lot of developers, but the real capital and the real deployment of solar only comes when the big guys step in with the hundreds of megawatts of systems, and that is currently not optimal in terms of permits, structure, and so on. Do you see any movement in this direction as well?
It's hard to say, but hard to say. Even as a local, I think it's moving too slowly, and yeah, there are some exception made for the already established project, the already signed PPA, but for new ones, I'm not. It's not looking great policy wise, I think.
Fair enough. So basically, your message is this year really key focus is CNI, maybe 100 megawatt CNI, and then take it from there. Okay, I have a question to Binu maybe. How is technically project in Indonesia, CNI project in Indonesia, how sound is it? And my question is more on, quality standards, safety standards. I want to understand a little bit whether there is significant troubles in building projects or it's more of a smooth thing. How strong is the rooftop in commercial and industrial entities in Indonesia? Do you see a lot of demand or cases where you need to do rooftop reinforcement and so on? Yeah, please.
You nailed it, Milan. Actually, that's the nightmare for every CNI developer at the moment. But I'm little more optimistic than Pawahio, who was there. That I would rate a CNI movement in Indonesia at least more than 200 megawatt. The reason is very clear and that would be primarily driven by the multinational customers here in Indonesia. Now, when I say multinational customers, these are the customers who are having CO2 reduction targets, who have committed globally that they would be walking the path of being net neutral. And it was, the regulatory regime which was stopping them by not utilizing their rooftops. Now, in the last 2 years, we have seen that regulatory changes have happened. It has been open for rooftop solar. Now, even slowly net metering coming up. This has actually helped all multinational customers to, take up that pledge and go for that rooftop. Now, because of that, there are a few challenges that has all of a sudden come up, which actually should have been taken care, because if utility scale projects would have expanded, or there would have more utility scale projects, the supply chain would have been more stabilized. Now, all of a sudden, what has happened is that there is utility scale projects which is happening only on the fragmented way. we are finding that large-scale EPC contractors or EPC, I would say EPC technically competent contractors are not there. Now, when I say that it is not there, it doesn't mean that to the scale of development that is happening, we don't have enough. And that is putting pressure on the quality because every developer wants, the prices, every industry wants that their prices to be better. The pressure is put on to the contractors to reduce their prices, and reduce their prices means that bringing in some less qualified, less trained people onto the site. This is actually creating trouble to have on a long-term project life, as well as the required yield from the project. Now, I still feel that we would need some amount of large international players to execute some successful projects in the country, so that there is enough transfer of knowledge, towards project management, health and safety, operation and maintenance, and also to address the fact that most of the plants over here are having roofs which are very old, structurally unstable, and there is a challenge that before entering into a contract, you cannot actually assess the quality and whether it would be able to take the load or not. Now, of course, there are ways and means by trial and error that you can do it with technology that is available, but that's not still a foolproof. So what we can do is that we enter into a pre-agreement with the customer and say that yes, we agree to a certain price, provided condition precedent that this will be formalized once we do the structural stability. I think that's the only way that you can go ahead with such kind of industrial projects.
Thank you. Thanks, Bino. Elva, a question to you. Your warranties are valid when installers follow the installation guidelines, more or less. Basically, that's probably a valid statement for large majority of the panel manufacturers. I'm not too sure about whether that's the case with Trina. But what happens in cases where panels are being installed on rooftops that are not extremely suitable for the load, does not satisfy the weight of the panels?
I think for this part, because for us, of course, we will check the installation environment, but mainly it's on let's say for rooftop, if it's like a chemical factory, so we also need to confirm some special chemical materials percentage, whether it's suitable for the panel installation or not. But when you talk about the whether the structure or the rooftop, or whether it's old or new, I think this belongs to the EPC part. Because for us, panel won't really spoil if you install on the very old roof, unless it just collapse. Then of course we won't take this responsibility if the panel collapse. But normally, whether it's good or not, it won't really impact on the panel generation. So that's why we also recommend that the EPC should really check the structure, whether they can really withstand for this kind of weight or not. Because now the panel, of course, our efficiency become higher and higher, wattage also become higher. Of course, the dimension and the weight will also increase a bit. Yeah, so mainly EPC needed to do the site visit earlier. Then for us, normally we won't really check the structure. We will check the environment, especially for the chemical. Some like glove factories, they will also use some chemical. Whether the chemical will come from the rooftop or not, will really spoil the panel or not. So this is the main concern we're gonna give to the EPC.
Sounds good. Well, I guess it depends. I mean, your point of view is perfectly fair, but when the panels grow bigger and bigger, which is a trend that we're seeing and more heavier, then of course the rooftop strength becomes bottleneck. Uh, you know, I guess the whole industry is moving towards more efficient, more powerful panels. Probably the next question is when are we going to see 1 kilowatt peak solar panel? Any estimation on that?
Currently, we didn't really see it because for now, the highest voltage for Trina, now the mass production is still 660 watts. And if we go for the N-type, the TopCon, maybe we can go for like 675 or 680 watt. Of course, we can see the 6.0 era, like a 700 watt plus wattage panel. Soon we will see it, but for the 1 kilowatt, I'm not sure yet. For now, I think because the PPA rate for previous 3 years it really dropped too much. So it also requires lower and lower LCOE. But for the panel technology, we also need time to really have a huge development. So for now, you can see all the top 5 supplier. We just enlarge our wafer size, cell size, like from 166 to some supply choose 182, and like Trina, we choose 210 to increase the power wattage first. But you can see the main difference. Let's say like 2 years ago, the 166 250 watt is the most popular technology. But for we also predict that this technology will phase out maybe next year. So of course, in the future will be all like even either 182 or 210 technology. But for Trina, you can see from 450 to 650, we increased around the 200 watts, almost 50% on power wattage within 2 years. But our dimension is not like we increase 50% because it's not really practical. We also need to put our panel in a container. So for now, I think we won't go the direction from like enlarge the panel dimension again and again because they have many restrictions on the like how you handle the panel, how you ship the panel, something like this one. So what we also introduced, Trina also focus on the TopCon or HGT technology to reduce our degradation in the future. But of course, all our technology were based on 210 technology. Yeah.
Perfect. You mentioned TopCon and HJT. Which one is it? Or it's both that you're pursuing without a clear winner? Because essentially that question comes up every now and then, whether TopCon will be the technology that will take over monoPERC, as it is a more or less a continuation in terms of manufacturing process, or it will be HJT.
I think this one is not only dependent on one supplier. For now, Trina, we still focus on TopCon first. But actually, we not really promoted the N-type a lot this year, mainly due to the LCOE issue. We understand the N-type is really good technology. It will also be the future because it can reduce the degradation yearly. But the issue is currently we still cannot really reduce our manufacturing cost a lot. Depend, let's say when if EPC or owner they evaluate the technology, performance is very important. The second part is cost. So when we combine these two elements, then we call LCOE. So if N-type can really reduce the cost and the LCOE can compete with P-type, then for sure N-type will also replace the P-type, just like at that time why mono technology phase out the poly technology. It takes some time. So I think not only Trina, every supplier is trying to reduce the manufacturing cost, and also we needed the support from our equipment supplier. Only their equipment cost can reduce. and also they can improve their process, then we can also reduce our manufacturing cost and increase our success rate when we produce the N-type. Then at the time, I think Trina will also promote the N-type and introduce this technology to our clients to help them to reduce the LCOE. But for now, I think we not yet have this confidence to do. Say N-type LCOE is lower than P-type. So we also don't really need to put so much marketing activity or salesperson on this type. So that's why I think like our owner or EPC all can look at it. Trina is always welcome to explore all the technology or even calculate the LCOE with our client together.
Perfect. That's clear. I guess I have one more question before I move more to the practical side of the development. But I have one more question to you. Basically, every time I speak to our suppliers, I tell them degradation. Keep focus on that because that's essentially what improves the financial models. And so several technologies have shown less and less degradation of panels. And I think TopCon is probably having the best results so far, and I think HJT is quite competitive on LID degradation and so on. Now that comes hand in hand with your performance warranty, and we have seen most recently one company announcing a 40 years performance warranty. How viable is this? And if that goes that way, are we going to look for, are we going to see 50 years warranties anytime soon?
I think this is the interesting part of why we, for me personally, I really like the solar industry because from panel side, you can see all the possibilities. No matter 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, we cannot say it's impossible. Even for panel, we never say, even we as a 210 technology favor, but doesn't say in the future maybe the wafer will become bigger than 210. We never think 210 this dimension is a final destination. Same for the warranty. For now, our maximum is 30 years, but only for the double glass panel. But we cannot say like in the future if they go for 40 years, maybe the process or the material can also go much better. So the supplier can also offer better warranty. For now, I cannot say when we can see the 50 years or even 40 years is not provided by Trina, but I can say it's always possible for the panel supplier. So let's see. So for us, like our R&D team will always check. But the main issue is for the mass production product. In the market, we also can see many different technology. Like for us, what we do is it's a fixed panel, but you also can see some flexible panels, and it's quite interesting. It's very creative. But the issue is how about the warranty and how much is their cost? How can they mass production and the mass used in everybody's home? This is very important. Why we do solar industry? Why we always the government, everybody is promoting the solar system because it's cheap enough and it can be used widely enough. So this is the purpose of the solar. So if let's say the 40 years warranty, the product can really be mass produced and can really used in everybody's life, I think that will be the a very, very great innovation. If it's during the lab side or it's only used for some special projects, I can say it's only the technology development, but it's not really good for the, residential or others. Yeah.
Got it. Pak Wahyu, back to you. I want to understand whether technology plays any role in your proposals that you make to customers, whether they pay any attention to what materials are being used, how is the system designed, and so on. I would suppose not so much, because we're in a very early adopters market where we have probably the multinationals now starting to get their rooftops solarized, but essentially those are the companies that usually pay a little bit more attention on the developers, the EPCs, what they do, how they do it, and what they actually deliver. So does technology make any difference on your proposals?
Yeah, but we internally at TML Energy looking for a way to lower our LCOE. As you mentioned, we are more like an early adopter for the technology, so not so detailed on the technology part as what style technology are used, but our client is more inclined to see which brand are bankable, and if it's already installed in a lot of other places. So big portfolio will help a lot. Big brand will help a lot. Standard certificates that will help a lot. But technology, they don't really see it in the detail. What we do is we adopt it. We use what we can and try to lower the LSOE and offer this to our client. A lot of multinational developers as well, they bring their own white list of product. They sometimes procure their own PV modules and inverters. So we, as a local EPC, we only do the balance of system installations. I think that saves some cost. Yeah, so basically what's bankable and what's already established product, we our client inclined to look more into that, if that makes sense.
Okay, and another question to you as well. Do you see anytime soon some sort of project financing available in Indonesia for CNI project?
What do you mean by this project financing part?
Basically, bank loans for construction.
Yeah, bank loan for construction. We have several now from international bank. We work with OCBC, UOB. We have worked with state-owned bank as well, but the interest may be still higher than what people might expect. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, any right. So, well, if you don't have any competition on this, then of course, if it's one bank, then
Yeah.
of course they can dictate the rules. But I guess local banks are needed here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully sooner or later they will, they will start paying attention a little bit more on the segment. Okay, Binu, same question to you really. How do your customers appreciate technology and quality on your proposals?
Okay. Milan, actually, I would just like to take a little bit some history over Berkeley Energy. In fact, we were the first developers in Indonesia in 2018, 2019. In fact, the first lot of developers who developed the project, the large scale IPP projects. I think 7.5 megawatt in Sambelia, Lombok, and a 14.5 megawatt in Gorontalo, Sulawesi. This is what Tony was mentioning in the first session. And in this, during those days, we have gone for using single access trackers in the country. In fact, we were the first. And we very well know that, of course, it increases the cost, but it also increases the performance and the efficiency. Which in turn, on a longer project duration, there is a better yield and revenue. So we are wary of the fact that technology plays a very important role. Yes, the capital invested increases in the beginning, but on the total project cycle, as far as operation and maintenance is concerned, safety is concerned, and the yield over the period, it is worth the investment. So, and customers also appreciate the fact that better products have been delivered to them.
For sure, and that's especially valid when you transfer the system ownership to them after the term of the PPA. Okay, fair enough. So, do you guys want to challenge somehow Elva, because she's now on record and she'll be very careful to answer? But since you're from a customer perspective, I guess now is the time we should probably challenge those guys a little bit. So, really, just want to create some sort of a dialogue, because we can't bring this industry forward without the manufacturers' expansion in the last 15, 20 years. The industry is where it is because the panel prices were dropping with the pace they were. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here now. So that's a note of appreciation. On the other hand, however, there has been a lot of hand twisting, particularly last year when there was no supply, no availability, or the prices were basically, the floor was for the manufacturers to decide what the prices will be. And I can tell you that I have a quotation for 38 US dollar cents per watt last year, and this was crazy. So yeah, how can we basically make sure that the industry will continue to grow hand in hand, where suppliers and customers will together work in a healthy environment? So I guess really, Binu and Vakyu, any suggestions, questions, or blames? Now is the time.
Okay, I can take that, Milan. Let me tell it like this: when in the last couple of years, when the prices were going to the roof, actually it was moving north, towards north, and there was a time when we as developers, even though we went ahead with 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, it was still not getting financially viable. That the customer, basically the customer would see it like that. Of course, they are getting a discounted price than the current PLN what is being offered. That whatever 10%, 12%, 15%, this liability they have to carry in their books for certain amount of time, and they would in turn look at what is the savings that they are getting and how many years they have to carry that liability in their books. Now, if we are able to offer lesser discount, which means that the amount of savings is less, and for the factory owner to carry that liability in their books, it will take 15, 20 years, which is not good for them and which is not good for the industry. It has actually stalled many large-scale C&I projects. It has stalled. They have said that let's wait till the prices come down, and part of it is also towards the logistic cost and the supply chain that has challenged over a period of last maybe 18 months. So my advice or my take over here is that not only panel manufacturers, everybody in the supply chain, whether it is logistics, whether it is EPC contractors, whether it is panel manufacturers, everybody have to think it in a holistic way, that this market is getting just on their feet. It is just picking up, and anything of trying to make quick margins out of a situation will not go a long way. It will actually stall the entire process of growth in this country. That would be.
Thank you. Key message: please don't do quick bucks. That's the key message. Pak Wahyu, are you on the same page?
Yeah, but and I think we as a company, I'm confident we're not doing that, but so we want this to last long and growth, have a good growth.
Perfect. So for the benefit of the audience, TML Energy is working without margin, and Bekis is
I
working.
can definitely reach out to them.
Bekis is also working with a very minimum margin with the lowest tariffs. Reach out. All right. I guess thanks everyone. Back to Anirudh to check whether his presentation can run. Unless Priyanshi, you have some questions, I don't see any here from the audience.
Hi. Thanks, Milan. So, Priyanshi, should I move ahead with the presentation first?
Anirudh sir, are you there with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you try?
Hi.
Yes, we can
I'll
hear
just share
you.
my presentation. Sure.
Can you try sharing your presentation now?
Is my screen visible now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry for that delay that we had earlier. So today I'll be just taking about a few minutes talking about some companies who have been using the technology to digitally transform the business and how Solar Labs have helped them to gain that particular thing. So the Solar Labs is basically a software as a service platform which is powered by artificial intelligence, and it is a cloud-based platform where you can log in and do all your stuff right away at the single platform and at anywhere in the world. So during the times, we have seen these kind of difficulties in like increase in cost, creation of more time to create those projects, and eventually leading to low conversion rates. Why? Because there has been different times that we have to create those designs. We have to work on different softwares like maybe AutoCAD, PVSys, and SketchUps to get those designs made. Eventually, taking more time to create those projects, and eventually the end customers gets impacted because of that. So these soft costs has been the major problem in that particular case. So in the residential market, we have seen that around rupees 2 rupees have been like approximately or you can say around $0.24 has been around those in the soft in the residential market, and for in the commercial side it is around rupees zero point 0.5 rupees being that significant change. So this has led to an integrated digital platform which will be the key of lowering these soft costs and improving that profitability. And this is where the Solar Labs comes in, where you can do all those things such as design and engineering, do remote site service, help permitting, doing digital marketing, maybe lead management, and sharing proposals to your customers right away from a single platform using a superior design tool. And this is where our software is based upon. Our software is based upon two use cases, one being the pre-sales, where you can do remote site service, provide sales quotations, provide 3D views to your customers of how your plant will look like, the financial analysis of ROIs and the paybacks, and even changing unlimited designs. Even in the second use case, you can do the detailed design and permitting, where you can provide accurate 3D modeling, you can share shading analysis, you can do custom made model layout planning, you can do energy simulations, and even in the electrical facilities, you can get the detailed SLDs and the wire sizing as well. So not only helping you convert more clients, but also saving a lot of time and cost, eventually helping you sell bigger systems. The secondly, like being the major tools that we wanted to provide, like that we all were discussing around, like gathering the site information, providing 3D analysis, financial analysis, providing shading reports to your customers, maybe to the government or regulatory front, providing custom module layout planning, providing manual stringing if you want to provide, and doing that auto sizing as well. So all these features provide you at a very single platform, helping you save a lot of time and cost along with this. Remember, I was talking about the multiple companies that who are using the technology to transform the business. So one being the Amplus Solar. So earlier they were taking around 3 to 4 hours to complete our design and maybe 1 day to share their proposals to their customers as well. So with the Solar Labs, we were able to reduce that timeline to less than 30 minutes. And with that, they were able to reduce their sales cycle and even eventually help them close more customers right away. The second being the Greenland Solar, where with the reports that we were presenting and the description of the data that we were saying, presentations that they were able to show with the customers of how their plant will look like, what are the production analysis, what will the ROIs and everything. they were able to convert and convince more client and bring that brand loyalty and that the trust factor with the customers, and eventually helping them sell more. Not only these, major companies such as Tata Power, Thermax Limited, Adani Solar, Sterling and Wilson, and Unirac, they are already using our product. So over the years, we have installed more than 30 plus gigawatt of installations from our software. We have seen an increase in 30% of the lead conversions. We have more than 1,000 plus clients across the globe, and with an accuracy of 99.99% uptime. So I'm just quickly taking you to the software, just to show you like how our software works. So this is our software, and you can see like I'll be helping you show the designs of like how we can design on the rooftops, RCC roof and the tin shed. So this is how you can just snap the building. You can change all the properties right away on the right hand side. You can build some obstructions as well. Like if you want to change the obstruction, there are some kind of water tanks, there are some kind of buildings on the top shade for getting the shading analysis. So this way you can just easily snip out at 90 degrees eventually, or you can change the angles as well. And you can create those models, and you can check in 3D as well how are these building right away. So you save this, and then you can just place the panels automatically. The AI will work and they will place the panels automatically. You can change the orientation of the panels as well, like in landscape, portrait, 2x2 tables you want to show that, you can do that as well. Similarly, let me just take you to the tin shed as well, how the tin shed will work. So you can again, in the tin shed as well, you can just snap out the building. You give that height towards the building, and whatever the tin shed, the tilt angle is, you can refer to that. You can change the setbacks also inside. And along with that, you can mark the all the obstructions, like skylights are there on that rooftops. There might be some kind of turbo fans that are there. So all that you can just easily mark out, and you can just place those things on that 3D itself. So there are multiple features also along with this while you are designing. So you can always go back in 3D and check how the 3D designs these plants are looking like. And if you want to change it, you can always change that also. And as you can see now, we will be using a repeat tool, in which, like, if you want, you have multiple obstructions, just like this, you can just use the repeat tool and place those models or the obstructions right away, and you don't need to create again and again those particular things. So this is the repeat tool. Similarly, like we'll have the turbo fan on the top. We'll just give that height of a particular thing, and we'll again use that the repeat tool of copy paste. We can do just copy paste and use the repeat tool to place multiple obstructions right on the top. So this is where we can do that. We can again fill face the panels. So panels again can be use AI, or you can manually place those panels as well as per your convenience. Then you can, on the tin shed, you can use that mirror tool as well, which automatically places the panels right away, and you can check in now in 3D how the panels will look like. So this is how you can just place those models on the side, and like this you can check in 3D as well while you are designing how the plant will look like in 3D. So any changes, anything that you want to make, you can just go back and you can do the changes. Inverters also, now you can add the inverters over here. Whatever inverters you want to add, we have the database of that as well, and you can just select the inverters. You can just place the inverters where you want to. You can do the wire sizing as well over here. You can do manual stringing also, and it will help you get the optimized solution. You save the project, you click on calculate generation, and you'll have that generation as well. So now for checking the shadow analysis also, you can check all the shadows over here. Now you can go to solar access and solar access as well. You can give click on solar access, and it will calculate the generation of what the panels are producing based upon their radiation level on that particular time. So in this way, you can check through heat map and solar access along with shading analysis of that particular year, throughout the timeline of what your panels are producing. And if you want to delete some panels based upon the shading and everything, you can do that. So I have downloaded a report for you as well, like how the reports look like. So this is the reports over here. As you can see, you will be having the name of the plant. You will having a snapshot of the building, and there's a 3D link as well, in which you can just go and click on 3D on the right hand side. You then the next page, you'll be having an introductory page about your company as well, which is again a customized page. There is a system metrics page as well, which will show how much the PR is, how much the production is going to be. Then there are the estimated savings page, where you can convince your customers based on what are the savings that you are going to get, what the payback is, what the internal rate of return is going to be. and what cost they are bringing on. So this again gives the customers a brief about the project that they're going to enter into. There are all the components you can add into the panels, inverters that you're adding. Everything can be described over here. If you're using any optimizers or microinverters, that again you can add upon. Monthly productions page will be there, where you'll be able to see what the what productions that you are able to get in a particular month as well, with the expected average generations as well. The monthly savings page is also available, where you can show them the based on the productions and the cost analysis what savings you're getting. The PR monthly table is also available with all the e-grid features and specific generations, in which you can show the customers, and based on that, annual savings will also be there. The field segment page is there, in which you can show them the tilt angles and the azimuth part, and the power also that you have placed upon that particular tilt angle. So that kilowatt basis, it will be divided into. Then there are shadow analysis report as well for the month of June, and from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Based on the same, there is a shadow analysis report for December as well, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can change those timelines as well, and then there is a conclusion also based on where, in which you can just mention what are the shadow-free area throughout the year. So in this case, that it was 99.68. The panels are in shadow-free area. You can show them the heat map and the solar excess map also, depending on telling them that how you have calculated those generations. Then there are losses page as well. Based on that, you have the generations are based on these losses that you have considered. Then there is an interesting page which shows that the opportunity cost that the customer is taking care of. Like for example, in this case, you can see a bill with and bill without solar. So for example, 550 lakhs in Indian rupees that they were investing in the electricity bills at a particular time, and during the time when with solar, their bill got reduced to like 15 lakh in INRs. So with that particular time, they were able to save around 35 lakh INR rupees based on this. So this way, this can be converted into dollars or any kind of currencies as well. So last page, this can be based upon the impact that they're bringing on the environment, what carbon offset they are bringing, what are the coal that they have avoided to burn, and the equivalent number of forests that they have planted. So all this will be available right away at a single platform. And the last page will be a thank you page, again based upon your company profile, what your company is, and the thank you page of the credentials of your company. So this all things will be available for you at the very same page, which eventually helps you and your company get more customers right away. So this is from my end. Up for any questions, you can always post it right away in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much. Over to you, Priyanshi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation and giving us the complete details about your project and everything. It was really great. So, Milan, sir, you would like to take closing remarks from all our speakers? I believe Milan sir got disconnected. Binu sir, I'll start with you. You can give your closing remarks, proceeding with Vayu sir and Elva ma'am. Binu sir, you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, my closing remark over here is that we have seen a massive change in the solar industry over a period of last 2 to 3 years, and we can see that the movement is going in the right direction by the government. On the utility side, yes, it is slow. There is we are expecting the regulation, presidential regulation to come into effect. So I'm cautiously bullish on the utility side, but I am very, very optimistic on the C&I side, where large scale growth will be having in the near future. So positive signs for the country. Yes, I can see that.
Great, thank you. Elva ma'am, you would like to give your closing remarks? Elva ma'am, can you hear us? Vayu sir?
Hello.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. You can give your
Sorry.
closing remarks.
Sorry, I just now I cannot hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm asking you to give your closing remarks.
Okay, so thank you everybody for this webinar. I can say because I didn't reply the last question. Yeah, I think Indonesia market is really a baby, you know. It's sorry, I should open my video. Yeah, I see Indonesian market is really just a baby. So China will also try to take care of it very carefully. So even last year, I think we're really in a very tough situation. But for Indonesian market, we never increase price. Also, we make sure every delivery is on time. So this is, I think this is our blessing to Indonesian market, and China will continue doing so. And for this year, we are also quite happy that the Indonesian market also give us some rewards. So for now, we are quite really promising. So that's why we will also put more marketing activities and as well as manpower in Indonesia. So for sure, and we are lucky that all our SMI certificate also just all get it, including our 600 watt plus. So we are very, very happy that it can give all the investors, EPCs, a much lower LCOE. So let's see. Yeah, of course, I also hope the you guys also can try our service and as well as our product. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great to know, ma'am. Vayu sir, you can also give your closing remarks and then we can wrap up with the session.
Yeah, thank you, Priyansi. So yeah, we're hoping to see growth here in Indonesia. As Pa Binu mentioned, on the CNI side, it will grow strong, and on the utility side, even if it's slow, we're hoping to see some growth in the near future, some changes in the near future, and looking forward for the technology that Trina or anyone else will offer to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all our panelists, and thanks to Milan sir, who got disconnected somehow, but he really managed well. And thank you to all our panelists, Vayu sir, Elva ma'am, you did a great job, and Binu sir, really great job you have done. So with this, we come to an end of the day one of Indonesia Solar Week 2022. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for such an insightful and exciting session and panel discussion focused on the rooftop sector, followed by our most prestigious award ceremony. Till then, bye from my end. Now the floor is open for networking. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.